Did you know that right now, as you sip your morning coffee or tea, you might be consuming chemicals that never break down in your body? These forever chemicals, called PFAS, have been found in water supplies across Australia. And recent research from Monash University has discovered something even more alarming. They're accumulating in our brain tissue. In this short documentary, we're going to show you exactly what these chemicals are, where they're coming from, and most importantly, if your home is in one of the contamination hotspots. Over 40,000 people in the Blue Mountains alone have potentially been exposed since 2007, with some residents showing PFAS levels in their blood far higher than what's considered safe. You might think your tap water is clean and safe, but there's something microscopic lurking in it that you can't see, taste, or smell. When you turn on that kitchen tap, you're potentially getting a dose of chemicals that have been silently building up in our environment since World War II. PFAS chemicals have been used since the 1940s in countless everyday products, from the non-stick coating on your frying pan to the stain-resistant treatment on your couch, and most critically for our water supplies, in firefighting foam that's been sprayed at military bases, airports, and in accident sites across Australia. This widespread industrial and commercial use has created an invisible web of contamination throughout our environment. What makes these chemicals particularly concerning is their extraordinary persistence. Some PFAS compounds take more than 1,000 years to degrade naturally. Think about this sobering reality. The very first PFAS chemicals manufactured during the 1940s are still present in our environment today, silently circulating through our ecosystems. Like microscopic travelers with no destination, PFAS chemicals migrate with remarkable efficiency through soil and water systems. Contamination spreads like an underground network, traveling through groundwater and affecting areas kilometers away from the original source. In Australia, our water supplies have become contaminated through three main pathways. Military bases, where firefighting foam was used extensively in training exercises for decades. Industrial manufacturing sites where these chemicals were produced or heavily used, and waste treatment facilities that weren't designed to filter out these persistent compounds. The Blue Mountains provides a telling example. In 1992, firefighters used PFAS-containing foam to extinguish a petrol tanker fire at Medlow Bath. Those chemicals eventually infiltrated the local water supply. And that single incident from decades ago continues affecting water quality today. The extraordinary durability of PFAS comes from their chemical structure. They contain carbon-fluorine bonds, among the strongest in organic chemistry. Imagine these as molecular fortresses that your body simply doesn't have the tools to breach. When these chemicals enter your system, they remain, accumulating over time. PFAS compounds also have a unique dual-repelling ability against both water and oil. This property makes them valuable for manufacturers, but troublesome for our health as they readily enter our bodies while resisting natural breakdown processes. These synthetic compounds were deliberately engineered for stability. The very qualities that made them perfect for industrial applications make them environmental and health hazards. They persist indefinitely in the environment, accumulating in tissues and organs, with your body having no effective means of elimination. Those indestructible compounds aren't just sitting at military bases or industrial sites. They're traveling silently through groundwater systems and showing up in surprising places. And what's truly shocking is the concentration levels we're finding. While most Australians are familiar with PFAS contamination near defence facilities, recent testing in the Blue Mountains has revealed something far more disturbing. One resident from Wentworth Falls had their blood tested, revealing staggering results: a PFHXS level of 30 nanograms per milliliter and a PFOS level of 11 nanograms per milliliter, totaling 43 nanograms of PFAS in their blood. This is the highest level found in the community so far. These levels exceed what's been found in known contamination hotspots near Australian Defence Force bases in Katherine, Oakey and Williamtown, where average PFOS levels range between 4.9 and 6.6 nanograms per milliliter, and PFHXS levels between 2.9 and 3.7 nanograms per milliliter. Think of PFAS like an invisible visitor that moves house to house through underground water channels, showing up in cups of tea and shower water where you'd least expect it. The Blue Mountains residents are showing alarming concentrations despite living far from any military facility. Over 40,000 people in towns like Blackheath and Katoomba may have been drinking contaminated water without knowing it. According to the Stop PFAS Blue Mountains group, residents have potentially been consuming PFAS-tainted water since at least 2007. More than 15 years of possible exposure, with no government entity providing data about PFAS levels in the tap water during that entire time. This raises a disturbing question. How many other Australian communities are unknowingly exposed to these chemicals? While the government has focused testing efforts on obvious contamination sources like defence bases, many residential areas remain completely untested. You could be living in a PFAS hotspot and have absolutely no idea. The consequences of this widespread contamination are serious. The Australian government has already paid around $366.2 million in compensation to affected communities, a massive figure that demonstrates just how widespread this problem really is. What's becoming increasingly clear is that PFAS contamination isn't neatly contained to areas around military bases or industrial sites. These chemicals don't respect property boundaries or stay put where they were originally used. They move through groundwater systems and can spread kilometers away from their source, creating contamination zones in unexpected places. Recent testing has discovered PFAS in city water supplies far from obvious contamination sources. The most troubling part? Most Australians have no idea whether their water contains these chemicals. There's no mandatory nationwide testing program that would alert you if your tap water contains dangerous levels of PFAS. Unless you live in a known contamination zone, you're essentially drinking water of unknown PFAS status. Those unknown chemicals in your water don't just disappear once they enter your body. They're on a troubling journey that science is only beginning to understand. When PFAS enters your body from shower water or drinking water, these chemicals enter your bloodstream and begin a concerning process. Unlike many toxins, your body can process and eliminate PFAS compounds attached to proteins in your blood, hitching a ride throughout your entire system. For years, we have known PFAS accumulates in organs like the liver and kidneys. But now, groundbreaking research from Monash University reveals something much more alarming. PFAS crosses the blood-brain barrier and builds up in brain tissue itself. This discovery changes everything we understood about these chemicals. Your blood-brain barrier works like your brain's security system, a sophisticated checkpoint meant to block harmful substances while allowing essential nutrients through. Most toxins get stopped at this checkpoint, but somehow PFAS manages to slip through undetected, accumulating where it absolutely shouldn't be. The health effects from PFAS exposure we already know about are serious enough. Increased cholesterol levels affecting heart health, reduced kidney function, thyroid hormone disruption that affects everything from metabolism to mood, and lower birth weights in newborns. However, this brain accumulation raises even more serious questions about connections to cognitive decline, neurological disorders, and developmental issues, especially in children whose brains are still forming. The brain is just too important, controlling everything we do, think, and feel, to have toxic, forever chemicals setting up shop there. What's really eye-opening is what the US National Academies of Sciences tells us. They say there's an increased risk of adverse health effects when blood PFOS levels exceed 20 nanograms per milliliter. Some folks in the Blue Mountains have already passed this threshold based on their testing results. Even more shocking are the internal documents from 3M, one of the PFAS manufacturers. Their own scientist determined that a safe level for PFOS would be just 1.05 nanograms per milliliter, about 20 times lower than what health authorities currently use as a threshold for concern. When the companies making these chemicals have internal documents showing such low safety thresholds, it really makes you wonder about what they've known all along about the dangers. This brain discovery is particularly troubling for parents of young children. During critical developmental periods, children's brains are especially vulnerable. Their blood-brain barriers aren't fully formed, potentially allowing more of these chemicals to enter and affect brain development during those crucial early years. As we've seen with the Blue Mountains situation, government response to PFAS contamination remains troublingly slow. The New South Wales government now faces a formal warning of a class action if they don't provide blood testing and compensation to affected residents. Even more concerning, New South Wales Health has refused community requests for blood testing, citing insufficient scientific evidence regarding health impacts, a position that has left residents deeply worried about their safety. The Stop PFAS Blue Mountains group has rightly called this inaction negligence. Their frustration highlights a broader pattern across Australia where communities are left fighting for basic protections. While we wait for comprehensive government action, we must take personal steps to protect ourselves, installing proper filtration systems, requesting water quality reports, and supporting community advocacy groups. Remember, this issue won't resolve on its own. The time to act is now, before more Australians face the health consequences of these invisible but dangerous chemicals.